It's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs.
And I'm Barbara Walters, reporting tonight from Los Angeles. And this is 2020.
From ABC News, around the world and into your home, the stories that touch your life. With Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters, this is 2020. Tonight, he was the other victim, the young man brutally murdered with Nicole Simpson. Now, his family wants you to know the real Ron Goldman.
I'm very glad that I was able to be here and spend this time with you, because God knows where I'll be in a year.
For the first time since his death, they share their feelings about the headlines.
He has a name, he has a family, he has a life. He was more than a male companion.
About the rumors.
Did Ron ever mention Nicole Simpson?
And about the man charged with his murder. A Barbara Walters exclusive. A family's emotional tribute to their son and brother. Who was Ron Goldman?
How do you explain the inordinate national fascination with the O.J. Simpson story? Over the past 3 months, we've been riveted by every detail of his life and that of Nicole Simpson, whom he's accused of murdering. But as you know, there was another victim that night. His name was Ronald Goldman. And despite all the headlines, we don't know really very much more about him than that. Tonight, we will. Barbara reports now from Los Angeles.
Well, Hugh, tonight Ron Goldman's family breaks a long silence. We have read that Ron Goldman was Nicole Simpson's male companion. We have read that he was her lover. There have been all sorts of rumors about him. Now, for the first time since that horrifying night, the Goldman family sets the record straight. Here is Ron's story.
This is L.A. All I want to do is have some fun.
He was a Los Angeles free spirit, 25, single, and finding his way in the big city. He was good-looking and did an occasional modeling job. But Ron Goldman mainly supported himself by waiting on tables at restaurants in his Brentwood neighborhood. When he wasn't working, he would gather with friends at places like Starbucks Coffee Bar on San Vicente Boulevard. One of those friends was Nicole Simpson, and their relationship has been the subject of rumor and conjecture ever since their deaths. Nicole would let Ron borrow her stunning white Ferrari. Friends say he got a real charge out of tooling it around. Ron was working at the Mezzaluna restaurant the night of June 12th, when Nicole Simpson, her mother, and other family members came in for dinner. Nicole's mother left her eyeglasses on the table, and Ron Goldman volunteered to take them to Nicole's home, a short walk away. That's where he met his death. His body and that of Nicole Simpson, both brutally slashed, were found in front of her townhouse shortly after midnight. On the ground near the bodies were Ron's beeper, a bloody glove, a knit cap, and an envelope containing the eyeglasses he had come to deliver. Ron Goldman is buried close to his family's home in a Los Angeles suburb. The family, still coming to terms with their grief after 3 months, has stayed out of the public eye. But where others have engaged in speculation about the way Ron Goldman led his life, they have knowledge. They agreed to share it with us in a conversation that will stay with me for a long time. Mr. Goldman, you and your family have kept a very low profile. Why have you and your family decided to do an interview now?
I think it's probably because so much time has gone by that we as a family have sort of begun to feel that Ron's a bit forgotten, that we'd like people to know who the real Ron was and where he came from.
Ron was the first child of Fred Goldman's first marriage. His younger sister is Kim. Fred Goldman got sole custody of both children when they were very young, so the three of them were extremely close. How much older was Ron than you?
3 years.
3 years. What kind of a brother was he?
My brother was very protective of me, and he looked out for me. And he always took care of me and babysat for me, and he was like a second father to me.
Did you and Ron stay in touch with your mother?
No. No. It was my mother's choice to not keep in touch with Ron and I. We had attempted to reach her and to have contact with her, and she didn't respond.
8 years ago, Fred Goldman married Patty, who had 3 children of her own. Brian, the eldest, is away at school. Michael is 16 and Lauren 14. They all consider the family merger a success.
Everybody got along great. It was unbelievable. Because, go ahead.
It was kind of neat because everybody took on different roles.
You both wanted to be part of this interview. I know that. To let people know what your stepbrother, what your brother was like. It's important to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he was just like another brother to me. He was always there whenever I needed to talk to anyone. And anytime there was a problem, I went to him probably first because he understood all my problems because he went through them all too.
You had a big celebration this year when you became 13. Your bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
And we have a very happy, smiling picture of Ron at that.
Yeah,
Tell me what it was like.
It was a lot of fun. We danced like all night.
He danced with you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We got up there and danced, and he was real like outgoing and getting up there and having a good time. We had a really good time that night. We had a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Fred, Brian, which is my brother, and Ron and I were all up on the stage dancing, all 4 of us together to this. I forgot the song.
Old Time Rock and Roll.
Okay, obviously this is your older brother. We don't get to spend very much time together, so I'm very glad that I was able to be here and spend this time with you because God knows where I'll be in a year.
Ron never drank, never took drugs.
He didn't?
He just always said, I know better than that. Like, Kim was the same way. Overnight, he was suddenly bigger and taller than I was. I can remember years ago, I would always say, Ron, you're smaller than I am, so watch out. But suddenly one day it wasn't the case. He was bigger.
He died so young, 25. Was he still searching, or do you think at that point he'd begun to find the focus?
I think he found the
Yeah,
focus.
he was focusing.
It was a little secret between Ron and I, which my dad hates. But my brother had people, he had people that were looking into, wanting to help him open up in a restaurant, and he had checked out local spots. He wanted it to be like a little neighborhood spot. And I kept saying, why don't you tell Dad about it? And he says, because I want to put it all together so I can present it to him because I want him to be a part of it.
Was he getting backing?
Yeah, he was.
We hear again and again that people liked him, that he was very outgoing, that people naturally took to him. What was there about him?
My brother is such a caring person. He had a very genuine soul about him. And partly I think because he had that role with me to be the protector, and then he carried that out with the people that he came in contact with.
What did you learn about Ron the last 2 months that you hadn't known before?
A lot that I'd missed, in part because I was unaware of how many people Ron knew and had touched. At Ron's funeral, when we walked out of the chapel and looked across the road to the gravesite on a hill, it was loaded with people. We were told later that there were somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 people that Ron knew. So I was really unaware of all of that and learned that part. It was really quite remarkable. I guess the thing I learned the most was that Ron had really pulled his life together, and I didn't know to what extent.
You'd been a little concerned before?
Yeah.
And now you know that he really had a serious plan.
Yeah, it's wonderful to know. A little late.
Ron, we heard, had done work with cerebral palsy. people who are afflicted with cerebral palsy. Did you know that?
Yes, he used to work there, I think, about 8 hours a day. He used to help them get dressed, help them bathe, them, get bathed and feed them.
And we had heard from some of the people at Cerebral Palsy. It's a residential home that Ron used to turn up the music in the rec room real loud and take the people in the wheelchairs and dance around with them.
We have read about Ron being in the fast lane, driving Nicole's white Ferrari. What does that mean, the fast lane? What was his life, as much as you know it?
Well, I don't know. I guess that some people could hear the term fast lane, and I guess it could bring about some negative images. But knowing Ron, he liked to dance. He liked to be around people. I never, ever got the impression that, that Ron saw himself as, quote unquote, in some sort of fast lane.
Yeah. Or a ladies' man.
But
He dated a lot.
He dated a lot.
My brother wanted to be married, and he wanted to have a family.
Did he have a girlfriend?
He was dating a young lady.
When he had a girlfriend, you met the girl?
He wanted to get the seal of approval from the family.
This is a lot of family to get an approval from.
Yeah.
So we always knew when Ron was dating somebody.
Did Ron ever mention Nicole Simpson?
Never.
Did you ever know
Never.
that she existed?
No.
So
I'd never heard of her.
Would you have if she were a part of his life?
If
Yes? You all feel that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If
Ron was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I definitely think Fred or Kim definitely would have known, because I know the relationship Ron and Kim had, and anyone Ron was dating had to go by Kim first.
So many rumors. First there were rumors that Ron and Nicole were lovers, then there were rumors that he was gay. Did you hear those two?
No way.
Anyone but Ron.
I'm sure you've heard these. A lot of things that have to...
Yeah, we've heard some of them, unfortunately.
There were even at one point rumors that he wore a beeper, and so that might have meant something about drugs and being targeting it.
Because I was a tennis instructor, and he was running his own lessons. So people beeped him if they needed to get a hold of him that way.
As we have seen in other cases, often the victim is put on trial, and there is an unrecognizable figure to the family. Are you prepared for that? That might happen?
I think that I almost expect anything to occur. And that's part of the reason I think that we're here, is that we haven't said anything about who Ron was as our son and brother, who he was as our family. And there's been as you've indicated, there's been so many rumors and bits and pieces that he's still not quite a real person.
I keep hearing that he's this aspiring actor, model, and that's not who Ron was. And when I hear people say aspiring actor and model, it makes him out to be flighty, and that's not how I know him, and that's not how we know him.
He wasn't just a good-looking hunk.
No, he had brains, and he had smarts, and he...
Feeling.
Yeah.
How did you hear about his death?
The coroner's office called. And I couldn't even, when they said this is the coroner's office, I knew what coroner meant, but I couldn't register. It just did not register. And this was like at 5:15 Monday. And I said, quick, pick up the phone. Something happened. And we both got on the phone. And the woman on the other end said, I'm sorry to bring you this news, but this is a coroner's office. Did you hear about that Nicole Simpson was murdered? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that Ronald, your son, was the other victim. And Fred's face turned so white. I mean, I started screaming. It was like unbelievable. That, I mean, it was such a shock.
It's a nightmare.
Do you feel that Ron was just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ron was doing a good deed for someone.
Returning the glasses.
Yeah, and in fact, we had heard someone said, you don't really have to. And Ron said, it's only a block away from my house. I'll go. It's not a problem. I'm going home anyway. And he went.
It seems almost the entire country was watching that car chase on Friday night. Were you watching?
Yes.
Glued. We didn't want it to end any other way than somebody being caught. We wanted ultimately to have some closure.
I just didn't want any more
violence.
You wanted O.J. Simpson to remain alive so that there could be
A close to the case.
A close
We
to
would
the case.
Eventually know what happened.
Whether he's innocent or guilty, he has a right to, a fair trial.
Does O.J. Simpson ever acknowledge you in any way?
No, not at all.
Have you ever heard from him at any point?
No.
Have you heard from his lawyers at any point?
No, never.
What are your thoughts about O.J. Simpson when you sit in that courtroom?
You're innocent until proven guilty.
Do you try not to prejudge?
Yes.
When you and I had a chance to talk a little bit before this program, you told me that what amazed you was that you got letters from people from all over the country. I mean, most people don't even know your name, one would think.
All over the country.
Did you bring some of them? Do you have?
Brought a few.
Yeah. A lot of letters?
Oh,
Hundreds.
hundreds and hundreds.
Read a bit of something that you have.
To the Goldman family, we may not be visible. We do not parade with placards. We are not interviewed by the TV. We are here. We feel your pain and suffering and wish to comfort you. You are not alone. That's true. That's from some people in California.
It must be very comforting. When this first happened, and it was Nicole Simpson and a male companion, your son, a male companion.
A friend, a waiter.
I would yelling at the TV, Ron, his name is Ron. 'Cause there's nothing that you could do. When you just sit there and you're like, he has a name, he has a family, he has a life. He was more than a male companion. And even now I hear, even sometimes lately, it's just victim, not victims. Or I don't know. I don't take away from Nicole, and I don't take away from her family. But for me, this is my brother, and I scream out his name. And every time I want everybody to know, that he had a family, and that I want everybody to know and feel like they've, in some way, have met him or he's touched their lives the way that he touched ours.
They know Kim. They know he had a family. The Goldman family is looking for this case to close, Hugh, not just for themselves, but for Nicole Brown's family, with whom they have a kinship.
You sure can't blame them for looking for that. But this trial, most court procedures take a lot of time, but this one seems set at a glacial pace.
Well, they're trying. I mean, we had met this week with some of the lawyers. Robert Shapiro said they're trying to do it as quickly as they can. But Johnny Cochran, one of the other very prominent lawyers, told us the jury selection will start on September 26th. It will take at least a month, then 2 to 4 weeks of pretrial motions. They probably won't start the trial until January. Then the defense won't start until the end of January. It'll be March or April.
Yeah, an ongoing reminder to these families, too. Thank you, Barbara. Next on the program, when you tune in TV talk shows, you hear the most scandalous stories. But are those talk show guests for real? Catherine Cryer with a surprising look at what goes on off camera when we come back.